Your brain is constantly redesigning its own physical wiring. We think of the adult mind as fixed circuitry, a finished product. But deep within, your neurons operate like self-organizing architecture projects that never stop building or pruning themselves. Tiny chemical signals act like construction blueprints and quality control inspectors, telling every single synapse exactly how thick it should be, where it should grow, and whether it needs to survive the cut. This process of internal refinement is dictated by growth factors, molecules we call neurotrophins. They are not just messengers. They are sculptors that determine your potential for structural change. It means cognitive shifts are not always a mental effort. Sometimes they are simply biological architecture being refined from within. The real breakthrough is not just realizing these factors exist. It is understanding that they do not act like simple switches. They are part of a constant dynamic potential of being. Think about your brain as an urban planning project where usage is the only input variable. If you use a neural pathway repeatedly, it does not stay static. It reinforces itself through activity-dependent plasticity we call long-term potentiation. Conversely, unused connections can be systematically pruned away by internal regulatory signals, ensuring that energy and complexity are always focused on what matters most to your current state of mind. The deeper truth is not just that connections get refined. It is about internal triage. Your brain is constantly running a hyper-efficient culling process to ensure systemic viability, like an alchemist refining base material into pure gold. If the growth signals do not confirm ongoing utility for a specific set of neurons, they are not simply neglected. They are actively marked for elimination through programmed cell death. This internal pruning is not just about focus. It is fundamental biological self-architecture deciding which parts of you deserve to exist at all. It means that our potential is not merely limited by what we learn or practice, which implies something nobody expected when considering the sheer volatility and selective ruthlessness governing how long specific cognitive capacities are permitted to endure. It is deeper than triage, though. The brain is a perpetual developmental system, operating with internal blueprints throughout life itself. Think about how early embryonic patterning works. Subtle gradients of specific chemical signals guide tissue to form complex shapes, a whole organ based on where the signal was strong or weak. This cellular self-architecture does not stop at maturity. It continues to organize and refine its own structure perpetually. These are morphogen gradients in action, directing massive structural change without constant external instruction. But here is the paradox. While this suggests a limitless potential for growth from within, some pioneering studies argue that certain critical developmental windows create permanent boundaries on how much plasticity is biologically possible later on. How can an inherent self-organizing blueprint be both boundless and constrained? But how does that inherent blueprint even translate into actual structure? It is not just about strengthening paths we use, it is about building entire complex organs from nothing. Think of neurotrophins like highly precise civil engineers laying down foundational plans. They do not just fix a crack. They dictate the complete architecture of an emergent system, telling specific neurons exactly how many branches to grow and where their connections must travel across immense distances. It is self-architecture in action, forming intricate patterns defined by internal molecular logic. The signaling cascade dictates the final shape. It determines if that neuron will be sparse or densely branched. But while these growth factors sculpt the form of the cell, defining its complex physical wiring, the question remains about how this initial blueprint translates into subjective consciousness. What if the ultimate limit is not what you fail to learn or practice? What if the limits are built into the very language of your being? We have seen that cellular architecture dictates potential, but we have not looked at how this architectural design itself acts as a gatekeeper. Imagine an incredibly complex machine where not every possible function is coded in. Some functions simply fall outside its fundamental operational parameters from the start. These structural constants are what researchers call biological constraints on complexity. They suggest that while your brain is perpetually redesigning, the final shape it can take may be dictated by an innate internal logic, a pattern of self-organization so deep that our sense of limitless growth might just be a beautiful illusion. We are left with a profound dichotomy. Self-architecture is both dynamic and bounded. But this tension holds the answer, not in trying to break boundaries, but by learning their operating code. If your brain runs on internal blueprints, on molecular logic, then optimizing it requires acting like an architect, not just a worker. The most significant shift you can make is not mental effort. It is controlling the input streams that guide the system's self-design process. Imagine your life as a complex hydroponic garden. If you change the nutrient mix and light spectrum, you fundamentally alter what can grow, regardless of how much water you pour on it. This internal systemic design begins with awareness. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com. The grand conclusion is this: your inherent biological blueprint is not a static limit. It is an operational algorithm waiting for optimized parameters. The dynamic potential we discussed earlier does not exist in the abstract of wishing change upon yourself. It exists in micro-level input control, the conscious curation of information flow, and systemic demands placed on the brain architecture itself. Instead of simply trying to force a connection or repair damage, you must begin designing the nutrient environment for self-evolutionary growth. Treat your neurochemistry like an intricate engineering system. Mastery is achieved by mastering its inputs. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.